September the 9th, 2017. As you're looking at webcams from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, just north and east of Miami, just right in that same area around Boca Raton, you can see that the weather has changed from yesterday quite a bit. Now, the storm is tracking further west than it was last night. That's a good thing for the eastern shore of Florida and Carolina and Georgia, because it looks like this thing is going to skirt up into the Gulf. The tracking now shows it impacting land somewhere south of Tallahassee, down in that Big Bend area. But here's the current infrared radar. Notice that Jose is getting stripped back. It's a much smaller storm, but it's actually being pushed back by the winds from Irma. And that stripping, this upper level wind shear, is keeping it down, keeping it small. But it is a Cat 4 with a powerful eye. Still expected to turn up into the Atlantic. Irma's a different story. The eye wall is skirting the coast of Cuba, and that has slowed the winds down by about 20 miles an hour. That's a good thing. It's not that good for Cuba, but it's a good thing for Florida. Now, it's expected to re-strengthen. It's still a Cat 4, but it's expected to strengthen from this point. Now, it was showing a Cat 5 here. We'll just have to see if it can come back from that impact with Cuba. Notice something else. I mentioned this in the video last night. Yesterday at 2 p.m. Saturday, this thing was supposed to be over the Keys. Because its move went from 16 miles an hour to 12 miles an hour forward speed, that puts that key impact at 2 a.m. Sunday. That means this thing's coming in tonight, late tonight, and that's going to make it really bad because you cannot see. And I hope a lot of people have been listening and getting out of there. Here's where we are now on the coast of Cuba, and you can see your timestamp. This is National Hurricane Center. Now, it shows a curve back into the upper sections of Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, going through Georgia at this point. That's, again, National Hurricane Center. This that particular line has moved further into the Gulf than it was yesterday. There's no models now showing the storm going up the East Coast. That's great for you guys. The Navy model is the one furthest out in the Gulf, but everything now has moved from Central Florida over to the Gulf side. But notice as it comes off of Cuba, it's over open waters. It's not coming right into the tip of Florida, but this storm is huge, guys. You're already seeing the effects at Fort Lauderdale, and you're getting these outer bands. Check that out. All the way up through Central Florida. Now, the power of the storm is in this area. Right there. So if this thing tracks, comes into the Gulf like that, it's going to stay over warmer water longer. Instead of coming into South Florida and starting to unwind, this thing could get back to a Cat 5 up in this area. Now, we're about to go through the heating of the day. That's going to change a few things. Look at two models. Global forecast system still shows it coming off of Cuba, around that tip, and going up into Florida, right through Central Florida, up into Georgia. The NAVGEM, or the Navy model now, has this thing barely touching the lower Florida peninsula. Look at that, coming in again just south of Tallahassee. If the models continue to move left, you're going to have to watch it from Fort Walton Beach, Panama City, back to Gulf Shores. Just saying, we're going to have to watch this. Monday, 6 p.m., the storm setting offshore up in North Florida. Now, this is current imaging of Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's very close to the Florida-Alabama line. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about that live there. You can see that it's clear now, but this is where I keep my boat, and the ocean is sensing that storm. I can tell you, I've seen this too many times. Just, you can feel it, you can see it in the water, you can sense an approaching storm if you've been around and watched these things long enough. It's just that the Gulf is one big 500-mile bowl of warm water right now. When this thing gets in it, that's going to change everything. So we're going to watch this thing through the day. As soon as it comes off that Cuban coastline, they're expecting it to start to turn north. That will be the key point. We're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.